Hello there, football fans. Collin, Sherwin alongside Seth, Varnadore. We've got 3 games this week to take a look at the film and do a breakdown. We're going to go over Auburn versus Ole Miss, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, which was, to me, the most intriguing game on the board for some reason, and then Cincinnati, SMU as the closer. We move along to Auburn versus Ole Miss. Auburn is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. The total right now is 70.5. Auburn is 1-4 in their last 5 games, and the total has gone over in 4 of Ole Miss's last 6. Certainly scoring a lot more points with Lane Kiffin at the helm. Seth, what have you seen so far out of both of these SEC teams? One probably a little ahead of where we thought we'd be, or where we thought they'd be, and the other a little bit behind.
They both are coming off disappointing losses last week, obviously. And it both came down to quarterback play, and both guys trying to force the ball. Ole Miss has an unbelievable offense statistically, top 10 in yards per play. But their defense is basically the inverse. They're the worst in the country in yards per play. Auburn's offense has sputtered, and you can see they haven't been very explosive. Only 3.75 explosive plays a game, whereas Ole Miss is near 7. But that turnover margin is what came back to bite Ole Miss last week and Auburn. Auburn is a more talented team. But Ole Miss is making really good use of the talent they have.
Before we get too far into it, is this a Bo Nix problem with Auburn, or is this a skill position problem?
I think it's a little bit of both. We're going to go into it. We'll start with what's wrong with Bo Nix. Here's one of his first interception of the game. I think he just tries to do too much. Here, you escape the pocket. A lot of his picks, he had one pick that was a bad ball, and he'll occasionally throw bad balls. But here's his second pick. It's just him kind of trying to do too much, throwing the ball late into traffic. And he tries to force the ball into Seth Williams, number 18, who's a really good player. And you'll see some of his highlights here in a second. But he had a really good cover corner on him, J.C. Horn, who I believe is Joe Horn's son last week. Find somebody else. But here's maybe why he's not. He's had a bunch of drops on him this year as well. When he puts the ball in guys, he's had drops. So maybe he only wants to trust Seth Williams. But what Auburn can do to ease his burden is give the ball to a running back named Tank. Tank Bigsby is a true freshman, and he's a stud. I think kind of give him the ball more. Here's a little Seth Williams for you. You see why he may be trying to force him the ball a little bit?
Sure. That's pretty good.
And here's down the field. Next day, we're kind of staying there, give him a shot at it. He comes down with it. And here's a little more Tank. He gets called down here, so no fumble. But he's a guy that I think is a real good player. And then when you give Nick's time and easy reads, he can make throws. He's got a strong arm. I think he just got to be managed a little bit better. Luckily for him, he's going to play Ole Miss, who, while having some opportunistic plays on defense, such as here, if you try to force one into your guy, they can make a play. They got guys on scholarship too. But those guys aren't very good for most of the time. So you'll see here against Arkansas. Yeah, they're not very good on defense. Yeah. So this is going to be a game that probably where Bo Nix will find a cure for what ails him. Defensively, Auburn has flashes of the old Auburn, stopping the run here, playing aggressive coverage, forcing a tip drill for an interception. But South Carolina was able to run the ball on them a little bit. They had a big run here. They got called back for kind of a ticky-tack holding call. But this is not last year's Auburn defense. Ole Miss, what happened to them last week? Well, Matt Corral tried to throw the ball into 8 guys, dropping back a lot. So, again, a young quarterback forcing it into coverage. But we've seen what they can do. Here's when I think they want to play aggressive defenses, right? There's an RPO. This is when they can use their tempo and get going. They were able to run the ball in Alabama. Another tempo run. And then use the play action for the crosser. But some of this relies on the defense being a little aggressive. Last week, they were not aggressive. They struggled, but they still made plays at time, finding the soft spot. But I think they threw 5 or 6 interceptions. So maybe a little more running the ball like that here. And then Corral, you see, is obviously talented. But he had problems last week. I think he got frustrated just forcing the ball in there. Auburn has shown they haven't been able to get home with 4 guys. And you see the South Carolina tight end running free. If that happens, the Ole Miss tight end's definitely going to be running free.
It looks like it's a lot of like triangle read. If safety's over this way, we're going back this way. If they play up, we're going to run. If it doesn't look. It looks like it's a lot of stuff that's at the line that's packaged one way. It's package plays.
They do a ton of
going one way or the
other. Ton of package plays and RPO stuff. So when your defense is aggressive, like Alabama was more aggressive. Well, now it's easier because, the linebacker's coming. I pull it and throw it to a wide open guy. When whereas Arkansas just kind of dropped back and it was like, all right, be patient, make your way dink and dunk down the field, where Ole Miss has been so explosive. So I think this is a tough game just because you don't know exactly how Auburn's going to play because they're so aggressive on defense typically. So that's maybe something to watch early. If you don't want to lay your bet down before the game, in game, see how Auburn's playing. Are they aggressive on defense? Are they playing man coverage? Well, then Ole Miss is going to be able to manufacture some points. Are they sitting back, and is Ole Miss still refusing to run the ball and take advantage of it? Then maybe you want to jump on Auburn. I think Auburn is going to score a ton of points this week. I think they need to. Malzahn's kind of on a hot seat. If he doesn't come out and score a ton on this terrible Ole Miss defense, then he's in trouble. And I don't know if Auburn's going to have the patience to sit back. I think they want to be aggressive. So I'm thinking this game might be an over. It's a big number. I think it's 70.5 last time I saw. But that may be the play. If Auburn is able to stay patient on defense, then you might be able to get Auburn in game for a good number.
We move on to Iowa State taking on Oklahoma State. The home team Cowboys are a 3.5-point favorite. Iowa State just 2-6 in their last 8 against the spread. Oklahoma State is 7-2 at ATS in their last 9. Seems to be 2 programs going in different ways. Iowa State took that big loss early in week 1, but has stabilized a little bit since. And Oklahoma State right now, I think you have to put them as possibly one of the favorites to get to the Big 12 championship game. But we shall see. It's still a long season. What do you see in these 2 teams in what has traditionally been a track meet kind of game?
Well, that could be something that changes this year. Oklahoma State right now, what's tough about them is they've only played 3 times. So it's hard to exactly say where they are at, but they have the number 1 defense in yards per play, number 1 on third downs. They're really highly ranked in explosive plays allowed per game. They're only allowing, allowing under 2 per game. And they do have a talent advantage. Iowa State is kind of just steady. I don't know. They pulled off the upset earlier in the year against Oklahoma. But that was a game that I felt like they kind of pulled out all the tricks and were able to win it. But again, they're a steady team, and Oklahoma State's a team you're not quite sure what you're going to get yet, but they appear to have a really good defense. So the thing with the Oklahoma State offense, obviously, they lost their starting quarterback on the first drive of the season. He is on schedule to be back this week. I'm not sure how much he's going to play. They said he might play. They said he might split time with the freshman that took over. But regardless of who plays quarterback, they have some stud running backs. Here's Mr. Hubbard, returning All-American, I believe. No, this is against Kansas, but still, pretty good play. Their backup has got a lot of explosiveness and just barely missed a tackle in the house. They do a pretty good job with a variety of zone schemes. They'll run it out of different sets and different personnel groupings. I think they want to be obviously a run team, and they got 2 backs that can do it. And then they'll take their shots down the field. Tylan Wallace is the outside receiver for them. He's a really good player. And they'll use the run game to kind of get people to suck up. There he is again. But they want to use the run game, open up some play action shots down the field. Again, this is against Kansas. But you can only play who's on the schedule, right?
And they only put up 16 points against a Tulsa team earlier this year, too. So something to keep in mind.
A Tulsa team, though, that held down UCF to like a yard and a half per play lower than their normal average. So that might be a good Tulsa defense. Iowa State against Oklahoma, they gave up a couple of those explosive pass plays off play action. So but they're normally pretty stout on defense. You see they play with a 3 down. They play a tight front, which has become they've kind of been trendsetters in that front in that sense. So they'll drop guys back and play with 8 guys in coverage and make it real and kind of shrink the windows down as the ball gets there and turn them into interceptions. They'll also bring pressure from all over the field. And then they'll do kind of interesting stuff like this where they kind of have Oklahoma scouted here. They're going to end up bringing 4 guys. He sees the blitz, so he tries to drop it off to the back. This defensive end is going to the middle for any of these kind of quick throws, these drop-offs, and he's just waiting right there for them to throw it to the back on the screen.
That's really well done.
Yeah. So here's kind of probably the best unit in the game statistically is the Oklahoma State defense. They are not afraid to bring pressure and play man coverage. They will bring it in a variety of ways creatively. They look like they got some guys up front that can rush the passer even when they're only playing with 3. You see 1 in 94. I mean, they're big, good-looking athletes that are bending around the corner. Iowa State, here's kind of a key thing to watch, I think, in game. Iowa State's only given up 4 sacks this year. Some of it is because the quarterback's able to get out of pressure like this and still make plays down the field. He does a really good job of throwing the ball away. But they only give up 1 sack a game. Oklahoma State's going to put a lot of pressure on them. Here's a little RPO from Iowa State. Let's come up and fit it, throw it in there. Oklahoma, I thought, was in good position a lot of times in this game, but they're so terrible. They're a terrible tackling team, and their back end is really bad. So it's hard to say kind of, what I think Oklahoma State's a better defense, so it'll be interesting to see how Iowa State plays them. But they'll run the quarterback. He kind of makes everything go, but they have a really good running back. Paul, he kind of won them the TCU game. He busted off some big runs, and they run some wide zone and a variety of zone schemes. Quarterback will deal with blitz pretty well at times. They do a good job. What they do a really good job of is motioning. They'll motion a lot to give the quarterback indicators of coverage and possibly blitz. He'll sit back in there and throw it and make throws early and anticipate. So right here, he kind of anticipates where this throw's got to go because he knows he's got blitz coming. But there are times when he'll just throw it up. This happened a couple times against Texas Tech. This happened right here against Oklahoma. And last year against Oklahoma State, he threw 3 interceptions. And that was kind of the key of Oklahoma State pulling an upset last year with a freshman quarterback. So, it's kind of what do you believe in the Oklahoma State defense? If you do, I think you would take Oklahoma State here. If you don't, you may want to wait and see if you can get something in game. I think Oklahoma State's defense is for real-ish as you can be in the Big 12. I think they got some guys. So I would lean towards Oklahoma State and the 3.5.
So Okie State laying 3.5 at home. 52 on the total. I can't believe this game is only at a 52 but it makes sense with the numbers that we've seen in this season. But this traditionally has not been a 52 team.
We went from an SEC game at 70.5 down to a Big 12 game at 52. That's like there's the 2020 in a nutshell, right?
Up is down and left is right. Brock Purdy, an NFL first round pick.
I don't know. He's got some tools, but I haven't watched him enough to really make a determination. But I think you got to play. He seems to be in control. But I'd like to see more from him. I haven't seen enough to give a determination on that. I would guess no, but I'd like to see more.
Well, let's go. Speaking of quarterbacks with questionable backgrounds, Cincinnati's taking on SMU. SMU's laying 2.5 at home. Seth and I this is a conference that we watch a little bit more closely than some of the others because of our alma mater in South Florida. I think Desmond Ridder is not good at all, and I don't think he can win games, and I don't think he can win games on the road. I think SMU can score. I've got SMU as the best team in the league. To me, and via the numbers, this looks like a really good spot here to take the ponies. It's going to depend on injuries, of course, and COVID and all of that kind of stuff. So buyer beware here, especially with who's out for SMU. But Cincinnati is 4-2 against the spread in their last 6 games. I don't know how that happened. I watch them play every week, and I go, I don't know how they score. They're so bad. Total has gone under in Cincy's last 8 of 9, and that's because they can't score because they have that quarterback. The total has gone over in SMU's 12 of their last 18 because Sonny Dykes really knows what he's doing and throwing the ball, and they're playing some fun air raid stuff. And SMU is 5-0 straight up in their last 5 and 7-0 straight up in their last 7 at home. Which means, when games are within a field goal and you're just winning straight up anyway, it looks like a pretty good sign in the long run. Do you share these same opinions as I do, Seth, that Cincinnati's just going to get their doors blown off here?
No, I don't. I don't share that opinion.
I know you don't. This is good. This is good. This is good content.
I disagree. Let's take a look at the numbers here. There are a lot of compelling numbers in SMU's favor. Obviously, and when you look at yards per play, SMU is 4th on offense and 24th on defense. Now, that number is somewhat inflated by playing an FCS team, but Cincinnati's also played an FCS team. So, take it both with a grain of salt. Cincinnati's offense, 5.74 yards a play, not great, kind of right dead in the middle. But defensively, they're 6th. They haven't played any great offense yet. So this SMU will definitely be the best offense they've played. But Cincinnati will be the best defense that SMU has played. So it should be an interesting matchup. 100%. Both teams are good on 3rd down. SMU, you see the explosiveness there, 7.2 explosives a game, and these are 20-plus yard plays. 7.2 a game is crazy. Cincinnati's only allowing 3.3 a game. So that's going to be the matchup, I think, is that offense versus the Cincinnati defense, which a lot of people think is really good. Cincinnati's a little bit more talented, but not by much. And then when you factor in the quarterback difference, there is a difference.
See, here's the thing. That's the difference between what you get at a G5 level and a P5 level. Shane Buechele's a perfectly fine college quarterback. He's not a first-round pick. But in this league, he's good enough to win you games and maybe win you a conference championship.
And I like him. I think he's a good player. He's definitely head and shoulders above his opponent this week.
For sure.
Yeah. So SMU, their numbers are pretty good on defense, right? They'll get after you. They'll rush the passer. They'll go here. They got an even front. It's a 3rd and long. They'll do some odd front stuff. I liked them last year, their scheme, but they didn't. They got beat by a lot of decent offenses here. Just a straight go route. It looks like you're in a 2-high safety look. The safety bites a little bit on the inside play, and you get an open touchdown to a Tulane team that I don't think is very good. Here's what concerns me about SMU's defense is their ability to stop the run. Cincinnati's going to try to run the ball at you. That's kind of they're an aggressive downhill team. They're going to run the ball at you, run the ball with the quarterback. SMU gave up 197 yards rushing to Tulane, over 200 yards rushing to Memphis. So when they played teams with a pulse on an offense with running the ball, they've given up about 200 yards a game. So that's what would concern me with SMU, because this is just downhill right at you.
And Cincinnati's averaging just 4.4 yards a rush per this season.
Yeah, well, that's what they want to do is they want to run the ball at you. They've got some good backs.
Very good.
And the quarterback is a pretty good runner. That's kind of one of his strengths is he can run pretty well. You see here, they kind of RPO it, get people out of the box, let him run. I think that's his strength. They'll do different stuff. They'll run wide zone. They'll run wing insert ISO. They've got some backs. This guy here, Zero, has got a lot of wiggle. He's a pretty explosive player. So they've got kind of a mixture. They are a lot more athletic on the outside than they were last year. Last year, going into them playing USF, I thought USF had a chance to beat them. I think I even told you that before the game because they didn't have any receivers. This year, they've got some. They just need the quarterback to get the ball. When you give him easy throws, he can make them sometimes. The thing with him is this is like a great in-game spot because if he's so feast or famine. He'll be hot some games, and this game against Army, he played pretty well. Here's a nice post rip. And then there's times where he does stuff like this against USF, first drive. Roll out of the pocket. It's 1st and 10. And I'll just throw it to you.
Throw it away.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that drives you crazy. But what Cincinnati does on defense is they are aggressive. They play a lot of man coverage, and they will be physical with you. They'll mix it up. So here, they show blitz, drop him, play man around it, easy pick. But SMU doesn't mind playing man coverage. Now, the big thing about this game is right there, Mr. Roberson. He is hurt. He's out for the year. He is a stud. They've got some other ones, though. They got a tight end that's pretty good. You see right here. Pretty quick. They've got receiver number 5. They'll give jet sweeps to throw to. He's a great athlete as well. They run with such a pace, they give you problems. And then they've got receivers that can go up and make plays, and Bushell's a good quarterback. Now, they had Memphis, who, as we saw against UCF, couldn't stop a nosebleed, gave them some problems in the run game, and their top running back is hurt. He is also out for the year. Cincinnati on defense is going to be aggressive, make you get the ball in your hands quick, and then come up and tackle. Here, try to run a little read. Safety's flying up. Here, we'll show you blitz and drop out and still get a pass rush. And then here, we'll bring the blitz, make the quarterback throw much earlier than he wants to, and airmail one on the first drive of the game. And then I'll get physical with you in man coverage, drive you to the sideline, turn and run the route for you and make the pick.
So here's my things about this game. Cincy averages 4.4 yards of rush, 5.7 yards pass, or 5.7 yards of play. Okay, they've played Austin Peay, Army, and South Florida. Yes. Army's actually not bad. Army's a serviceable team. Austin Peay and South Florida are probably about equal, and they're equally terrible. SMU is we can rag it. It's our alma mater. We pay tuition. We're allowed to say that. SMU averages 5 yards of rush, 7.4 yards of play, and they've played Texas State, North Texas, Stephen F. Ostrich Cupcakes, but Memphis, Tulane, that Tulane team, they're not very talented, especially offensively, but defensively they can play with.
I agree with you, but just looking at what I think Cincinnati's going to try to run the ball. I think they'll be able to. Okay. But it is – I'm not – this is a game I really struggle with because I think by the numbers, you think SMU is a slam dunk. And I think in close games, it never hurts picking the better quarterback. So I think SMU – I think I would even defer to you that SMU might be the play here. I think if you want to find something in game, see how Cincinnati's able to run the ball early, you might be able to get them at a good number. And if Ritter is in control, because he came out in the USF game and threw a pick on the first drive of the game. I mean, it starts from the beginning with him. He's bad early and stays bad, or he can be good early. And he's going to show it early. So I think if you like Cincinnati, maybe wait till end game. But I think SMU is. I think they're tough. I don't. You may have turned me. I don't know if they'll run away with it, but should be a good game.
So the total's 55.5, and here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Desmond Ritter does the thing where he, between the 20s, doesn't make any mistakes, gets down in the red zone, and turns it over on the first possession. And then that total is going to get down from like 55.5 on end game to like 49-ish, 49, low 50. And then I'm going to take the mortgage payment and just bombing it on the over because I think both these teams can score. I agree.
That's right. I agree. I think over is a good play here because I think SMU's going to run a ton of plays.
SMU is one of the top 10 teams in the country in pace. So they're going to go with it. And I think it's an over spot for sure. I think Cincinnati is going to be able to run the ball, and SMU is going to be aggressive defensively and force possessions. But the best part is that you've got Ritter who's going to turn the ball over, and when you're betting the over, turnovers are fun. So I just this one seems like a spot for me. We'll see. I don't think either of these teams is spectacular. It's not like I'm thinking SMU is like a top 15 type of team. They're not.
If they could trade quarterback, Cincinnati would be really dangerous.
Correct.
They would be really dangerous.
Right, and I think SMU's got a coach too.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Definitely. It'll be a good matchup for a little AAC showcase.
And the winner probably gets to a championship game because at this point, who else they got to play? This league's terrible. Yeah. So that was fun. Seth, I will see you tomorrow night at Raymond James Stadium for USF taking on Tulsa. But otherwise, we hope y'all enjoyed this. We will come back next week with even more fantastic football action. Might have a couple of surprise guests mixed in here too next week. Yes. So we'll be in touch. But thanks for watching, and good luck out there in the pregame streets or in the in-game streets. Go get that money.